Okay, teachers, welcome to our next tutorial. This is the photo inside text. This one's a little easier than the shape photo frame. It's definitely not as complicated. So it's pretty easy. You need an image that's easy to put some text on that's going to fit inside the text. So it's still kind of hard sometimes to find an image that works, but you need something that's got a very distinct thing in it, object. And so you need to put some text on it. I'm just going to put Bison on this, and you want a really thick font so that you can get this most image as possible inside the words, the letters. And I usually do everything in caps because it makes the letters a little bigger. So I'm going to write Bison. Also, if you noticed, I didn't do a text box. A text box is when you click and drag, and for some reason, I hate them. Because if your text is bigger than the text box, I'm already at 72, but you can come up here and type, let's say 700. My text disappeared. Where'd it go? Miss Ditley, it's not working. I wrote in it and I can't get it. Nothing's happening. It's not working. And the problem is my text is bigger than my box. If I make my box bigger, oh look, I have a letter. It's all there. If I click off of it, I mean, you can see on your layers panel, it tells you what's there, what's been written. But it was just so big that it doesn't show up. And I hate text boxes. The other reason why, on this assignment, if you do a text box, it gets to be too big. So usually I stretch this as big as I can. And in the new version of Photoshop, make sure you hold down Shift to distort. So I distort my words. It's all good. Something like that. And I found if you do a text box, this box, to drag it and make it big, you really have to zoom out to get a text box to work. So I discourage text boxes. They have a place. When I'm doing like a wedding announcement or something like that, then I'd probably use a text box. But for something like this, or just putting their name on, I discourage my kids from using a text box because they are confusing to them when the text doesn't show up and they think it's not working, but it is. And I don't want to have to explain to them why. So I'm going to write Bison across this, and then I already had a thick font. I should make sure this is Cooper Black, and you can go through and you can try to find a thicker font. That's Cooper Black again. There's some others, like this one could work. Franklin Gothic Heavy. But you just want a really nice thick font. And then, like I said, this is pretty easy. You switch your layers so you can't see your text for a minute. You just need to hold down Alt, and this is the one that's hard to describe to the kids. This is clipping. I love clipping. I do it all the time. It's a great thing for the students to learn. And you just click in between the two layers. So it gives you a little drop down arrow and a square. I just took it out. And so it does work over here. Sometimes students, I say move your mouse down a little bit and they move it all the way down here. I'm like, no, a hair. Move it a hair. Sometimes because it's just a little tiny space that it works. But when you see that drop down arrow, the little white square, that's where you click. And then, of course, you can grab the move tool, and I would reposition this. I want his eye to be showing. So to be honest, I think I want my words to be smaller, just a little bit. I'm going to hold down Alt so it goes into the center. And make my words something like that. And then Enter. Let me go back to my image. And move that. So I want his eye and his nose. And maybe a little bit of this horn right here to be showing. Maybe move it down a hair so his eye is not right on this indent of the B. Can't move it down. Oh, you actually can. There's quite a bit of space up there. So I would put it something like that. So they have a little bit of space to play around and position it where they want it to be. Something like that. And then you just need to create a background. Oh, and I do FX things. I love FX. So make sure they're on the right layer. That's really big. Students get they do the FX on the wrong layer, and then, you know, they don't show up, and they tell me the computer's not working again. And my answer is, the computer's doing exactly what you told it to do. You know, I got FX stuff, but they can't see it because it's on the wrong layer. I'm just gonna clear that. Okay, so make sure you tell them to go on to the text layer, FX stroke. They can do inside or outside. I just tell them not to make it too big. This is outside. I would probably keep it outside because otherwise inside is going to start covering your image up a little bit. So I'd probably keep it outside. And again, you can sample color from the image. What about dark green? And I usually add a drop shadow. If you turn the size down first thing, then you can see it. And then you can turn that up a little bit. And I'm not reviewing as much, like I showed you on the last video, how you can move the drop shadow around. And I usually add an outer glow on this one. I kind of think outer glows are fun. And I like the noise. If you turn the noise up, it's really hard to see though. This is one reason why I do sometimes find I can see it just showing up. Sometimes it is nice to do the background first. You can see it. We can also always come back to it. But when we add the background, I think you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to create a new layer for the background. And I'm just going to drag it to the bottom because it was, again, it's placed above. Let's color this a color. I don't know. Do I want it? Actually, I'm going to do a gradient on this. So I'm going to pick 2 colors. I don't know. I go with a darker green. Okay, so I just chose a foreground and a background color. And the reason I did that is because when you go to your gradient, it'll be there under basics. See, now you can see the outer glow. So those 2 colors will be there. You don't have to do that beforehand. If you chose, I mean, you could just choose a black and white, and then you can change the color here if you want. And you can still sample color from the image, so that still works. Sometimes it's just easier for the kids if you choose it beforehand. Tell them to choose 2 colors. You can change the angle. I like things kind of diagonal a little bit. And usually the darker color on the bottom, but whatever works for you. And then the one tricky thing about this is when you have them, if you have them add their name, click on your top layer. But a lot of times, since the bison is so big, if you go to add your name, it just goes on to the original bison layer. So if you hold down, if I remember right, is it Shift? It will let you add. Okay, now the problem is it's clipping, it's going inside, so I gotta drag that up. It's still going inside. So hold down Alt, click between the 2 layers, it comes out. And my caps was on, so it looks a little funny. We'll just leave it all caps. Okay, so if you hold down Shift, you can add another text layer. I remember it because Shift is when you're on a selection tool. If you hold down Shift, it adds. And so we hold down Shift to add a new text layer. It's awesome. And then you can just put your name wherever you want. I feel like that's a little too big. And if you wanted them to practice more skills, you know, you could have them add, you know, a stroke and stuff to their name. But I'm good. We do FX quite a bit, so I'm okay with not making them do that. And that's it. So you just need an image that you can put a word on that matches the image. You don't really probably want a really long word. Like I wouldn't want to put Yellowstone on this, so that would be too long of a word. I mean, this is Yellowstone, but I wouldn't want to put Yellowstone because this is too long. But this is a really fun tutorial. I like it a lot. My students like it. But you just need to find an image that you can put something on that fits, so you don't want a terribly long word. And that's it. Okay, thanks so much.